Michael Myers, Jason, Art the Clown. What do they all have in common? They like to kill people, but one of these guys does it for the love of the game, and that's Art the Clown. The Terrifier movies have become slasher royalty in recent years, with a grip on audiences because of their excess violence, brutality, and Art the Clown's unique design winning over the hearts of many. Damien Leone's creation is a tale many can admire. A man with little money and a dream, now making one of the largest growing slasher franchises in recent years. Since its inception, I've heard nothing but pretty hyper and consistent reviews saying these movies are a hard watch. Not because they're bad, but because they're violent beyond belief, with people leaving theaters because of its brutalistic visuals. However, they've also got some pretty great reviews in general. So, to wrap up October, figured I'd go through all 3 Terrifier movies to see whether or not the critics were right about them. So without further ado, let's dive into the Terrifier. So I guess now is a good time to admit that I've never seen the first Terrifier movie. I've only watched the second one in passing. Man? So basically going into this whole franchise, I'm quite ignorant to what I'm about to experience. But that means the bar is incredibly low, so I'm pretty excited to see what this first movie has to offer. I rarely watch a film series having seen the sequel before the original. Tron is one of the only other franchises I can think of where I've done this, and now this. But it's without saying that seeing the genesis of what's now this mega popular franchise is very interesting. I think slashers can get away with their stories being pretty linear, having not much character development or plot for the sake of scares or thrilling action moments, and that's pretty much what this movie is. The time at which this came out, it's no surprise that the kind of backlash the movie received. I mean, this is far and away the most violent project I've seen. Well, besides the later movies, of course, because it gets worse. But yeah, there's clearly an emphasis on making these kills thrilling and uber violent for the sake of uniqueness. And whether you're a fan of that approach or not, this series is all about that. For me, I enjoyed it for what it was. I expected a slasher with a lot of kills, some absolutely disgusting, and got that in spades. I think Art the Clown is one of those recent slasher characters that'll be remembered among the greats. His look is unique and uber creepy, but his mannerisms, the way he walks and animates, it's really entertaining. I don't know, I kind of find him hilarious sometimes, like he's rage baiting the people he's about to kill by doing his movements. The whole film just opens to Art already existing, there's no origin to him. He's just walking among the people of this small town and gets to killing these 2 drunk girls, along with many handyman, and then brutally destroying the face of one of the drunk girls' sisters, who just straight up becomes a horror character in herself by the end of the film. This movie was made on a budget of $35,000 and managed to make over $500,000 in the box office, which is just insane. For such a shockingly low budget, this film looks great. Like, it's clear the production budget went into making the kills look as gross as possible with the makeup and such too. But also in its lighting. I loved how this movie looked, down to the shot compositions and the way each shot was lit. The acting was overall pretty decent, especially knowing this movie was more indie and low budgeted. Thought the overall acting from everyone was pretty good. Terrifier is a movie worth checking out if you're a slasher fan and are interested in the beginning stages of what's now a franchise. If you can't handle gore, then by all means, stay away from this as much as possible. Now, the critics gave it a 63% on Rotten Tomatoes, and, well, do I agree with that? Well, I'd say so. I think that's an alright assessment. This movie is pretty decent, but it's nothing too crazy. There's not much substance to it besides its gore porn kind of vibe to it. But if you're into that type of movie, well, this is the right product for you. Now, with Terrifier 2, I have seen this movie before. Funny story. My friends and I rented it when it came out back in 2022, and I watched it on Halloween Day. So, yeah, this is pretty crazy. Going back to Terrifier 2 was a pretty fun experience. Like I mentioned in my pre-movie thoughts, this movie brings me back to a very specific time in my life. Like, the time and place for where I was are so vivid because of this movie, and the specific day I watched this, with people I barely talk to anymore. Like, it's fascinating, but with the context of the first one now, some plot points actually make sense. The references to the events of the first aren't unknown to me, which was nice. For me, it's clear Damien Leone's vision for what he wanted this series to be shines through more clearly here. Outside of the slasher antics, there's starting to become an overarching story that lays the groundwork, and it starts with this movie. We get actual characters with an arc in this through the main character Sienna and her brother Jonathan. They're 2 kids with a dead dad that drew a bunch of weird drawings connecting them to Art the Clown somehow. It lays the groundwork for some interesting concepts I'm assuming get touched on later, because they don't get touched on here. I like Sienna, I thought she was cool, and LaVera had to carry the acting chops on her back because she clearly came to work while others took a
Moments on
sabbatical.
sabbatical, honey.
For real though, her acting was definitely the best here, and it's bar none. Her mom, for example, was goddamn hilariously bad. And although she was, it was so entertaining. I don't know how I would have enjoyed this movie if she wasn't in it. This woman was so mad at her kids from start to finish, it was hysterical.
You're such a bitch!
I forgot that although this movie's budget increased, it was still a very low budget project at $250,000. So clearly, some of the actors were found on Temu.
If you're gonna put that in your mouth, you gotta pay for it.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
A lot of this movie deals with Sienna's relationship with her brother, who's this weird kind of kid, but is like the only one who sees Art doing heinous shit. So eventually, Sienna believes he exists and starts tweaking out. Rightfully so. But like I mentioned before, their dad clearly has some connection with Art and his backstory, because his previous drawings show images of Art's killings from the first movie. And this dad also predicts how the second movie ends, so there's that. Now, my favorite part of this movie is Art by far. They really amped up his mannerisms and goofy nature because this guy is a comedy act at this point. And in my opinion, I kind of prefer that, to be honest. Like, I think he's creepy, but if you played up the dark and creepy factor too much, I think it would worsen his image. Like, he's trying too hard. The fact he's creepy already, but messes around for half the movie for shits and gigs, makes him so comedic and entertaining. But yeah, his killing scenes are absolutely insane. But we got like 3 or 4 scenes in here where the gore porn is turned up to like 11. It's almost so bloody and violent, it's easier to consume as a viewer. Like, because it's so unrealistically gory, it kind of is just laughable, or more easier to digest in that kind of crazy way. The gore is more iconic in this one, at least to me. There's more intense scenes. The bedroom one, or the scene he uses a shotgun, the final battle, the dream commercial sequence, all of those stick out to me as some of Art's more quality work. And another thing that makes this movie so funny to me is Art's doing all of this just for the love of the game. He's got no real motivations as of now to be doing any of this. Dude's just obliterating people's skulls for fun. One scene in this had me dying of laughter, which is him watching the TV and it's the girl from the last one's ending who got her face all mashed, and he's just looking at her and laughing. Like, I did this shit, you seeing this? But this movie also goes supernatural, which, about damn time. With how the last movie ended and everything, I didn't know if this movie series would go full schlock and just accept its insanity and go supernatural, but it did, in spades, because Sienna becomes some form of goddess to chop off Art's head by the end of the movie, who eventually gets reborn, with WWE star Chris Jericho working the late night shift as it happens. Wild. Now, the critics gave this movie an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, with audiences giving it an 81%. Would I go so far to agree? Not necessarily. No. I think this movie's pacing is by far its most hindering aspect. The fact it's a 2-hour and 20-minute long slasher is quite honestly way too fucking long. The first one being 90 minutes fit perfectly, and I know this movie set up some backstory, but quite frankly, it was not expanded upon nor that detailed for it to be as long as it is. There's definitely a place to cut like 40 minutes and this movie would still remain good. And again, the acting is quite hit or miss, but I will say it adds to the hilariosity of the film, so I enjoyed that. But in my opinion, I'd probably say the 70s range is where I'd go for this movie. I do think it's way better than the first, but it's nothing like insanely great for me anyways. I feel like the IMDb and Letterboxd scores for this movie are more in range with what I agree. Now, with the third movie, I had no real intentions to watch this unless I was making a video about it, and here we are. Not because I think the movie's bad or anything. I saw the good reviews, and I saw a lot of people praise it. I just was not in the space of my life to watch the third one back in 2024 when it came out in, like, December. So I'm ready now, and I'm ready to give it a shot. Lord knows I wasn't expecting a Christmas movie out of this. I definitely should not put this on by accident in front of my whole family December 1st. Like the first Terrifier, I had zero expectations for this movie, besides hoping to see more art shenanigans and insane kills that most likely look better because of, you can guess it, a bigger budget, yes. See, you're getting it now. With this movie, I was curious as to how the story was going to progress. I mean, Art did die in both movies, so I was wondering if that would be answered, but no, it doesn't. Like, his backstory, I mean. I understand he's a god who can't die at this point, but I was curious to see if this movie would fill in any blanks regarding Art, and, nah, it doesn't. I'd say this movie is more so looking for style points than relative character progression. Now, I will say, I think this movie is good fun. It's got all of the staple Terrifier staples. Honestly, dialed to like 20. The last movie was good, but this movie, especially with the kills, well, damn. It's horrifying. The movie pulls no punches. Not like it did before, but, there's some sequences in here where you're just in utter shock at what art does. That being said, of course the slasher parts of this movie are thrilling, fun, brutal, sickening, and downright hilarious in some parts. Again, Art the Clown is basically a comedy actor at this point. Seeing his goofy smile while he's brutally murdering a bunch of people, it's hilarious to me, okay? I don't know what that says about me, but I find it funny. The bigger budget allows for this film to really shine in its production value. The lighting, the different locations, shooting at a mall, a college campus, new homes. It feels really refreshing seeing all these new spots for Art to kill at. I thought the new characters were kind of fun, like Sienna's aunt and uncle, along with her cousin, taking her in after her mom got arted in the previous movie. I also thought the use of PTSD and Sienna was an interesting route for a character arc as well, making the previous movie hold more merit than forgetting about its events. Putting Jonathan in college was cool too, giving him some substance, although I thought the random blonde chick super into his backstory was kind of pointless, but I'll touch on that in a second. The movie's action scenes are of course really fun. However, I feel like a lot of this movie's just pointless. Like, again, similar to the problems I have with 2, this movie is way too long. A slasher being over 90 minutes is kind of silly to me. A lot of this film feels like wasted space that could have been tightened to fit a proper length. Like, Art doesn't even try to start killing Sienna and her family until an hour and 20 minutes in. I get the gore porn schlock needs to get its due, but I don't need to waste around 80 minutes before the schlock has any real meaning for me. I feel like this deep into the series with a clear message of there being a deeper story lurking, why does this movie need to be as long as it is? Maybe it's just a personal thing, but I prefer how the original was short and sweet without dragging the main premise too long. Plus, you can get away with no backstory in the first one because, well, it's just the introduction, and the budget was much smaller. Now the budget's way bigger, and it's way longer of a movie, and not much substance is there. I like these characters, and I enjoy the slashing, but we can definitely find a balance where the slashing has more importance to the story. Now, critics gave this movie a 78%, and honestly, I think that's a pretty solid rating, because I enjoyed the film, and I thought the upgraded budget really enhanced the vibe of the movie. Plus, the Christmas theme was great too. Art's look in the red Santa suit, all bloody with his makeup, was mwah! However, there are those certain problems that kind of hold the film back for me. I would say that this movie is not as good as the second, but I would say it's better than the first. So now that I've seen all 3 of these movies, do I think critics were right about them? Honestly, for the most part, yeah, I'd say so. I'm kind of shocked that the first one is so low in comparison to the other 2 in terms of reviews, because I feel like the first one, funny enough, is the most concise storytelling-wise of the 3. That being said, will I ever watch these movies again? Probably not, no. I think they're fun, as slashers go, alright? And if you enjoy these movies, you should, because they are good times. They're clearly not the average moviegoer's cup of tea, alright? So the only time I'm ever going to be able to watch this again is if my friends want to watch something absolutely brutal and horrifying. But I understand the hype, man. I think seeing a creator get his vision brought to life with increasing popularity and rave reviews over time is quite possibly the most wholesome thing I could see as a creator. Plus, the visuals and production getting increasingly better in each film is just wild to see. I haven't seen anything like this since Mad Max. Which, if you haven't seen my rankings of Mad Max, you totally should, because it's really good. But yeah, overall, I had a pretty fun time watching these during the Halloween season, and I'm sure I'll see a bunch of Art the Clown costumes tonight when I go out. That being said, when Terrifier 4 does come out, I will be seeing that in theaters this time. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. What are your thoughts on the Terrifier movies? Let me know in the comments below. Also, happy Halloween to all you celebrating. Make sure you get wacky and fun tonight, yeah? If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. Keeps the lights on over here as well, as continues our quest to reach 20,000 subscribers before the new year. So hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever I drop a new video, and hit that like button. And as always guys, I'll see you very soon. Peace out.